I was still very confused about the Cornel West thing. You started by talking about sort of why it would make sense for him to kind of
join forces with us, you know.
Yeah.
And I had extended to him, you know, would you please consider, you know, running together then? You know, would you consider running as a ticket? Because we have to use the Green Party's ballot lines. Otherwise, you're dead in the water.
Yeah, I want to establish the context for the audience who doesn't necessarily understand the ballot line piece of this. Cornel West at some point said, I'm running for president. Right. And, you know, surprised all of us. You know, I didn't know he was running. I'm not, you know, a lot of us didn't know, even people who were close to him. A lot of excitement around the campaign. And then it was, well, what's the party? And it went from the People's Party, right?
Right.
And then it was like, okay, well, that's kind of a funky space to operate in for lots of reasons. And it's like, oh, wait, the Green Party is here. And my first thought was, this is great. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure how we're saying he's a Green Party nominee, or, you know, which is what the media was saying. I was like, I haven't got any announcements. We have a process. This is an actual party, like, you know, but I very much wanted Cornel West to be the nominee for the Green Party. I think he has the right vision. He has the right voice. He has the right access, the right platform. He's compelling. He has all the things, right? If you're going to run a third party candidate at this juncture in history, makes a lot of sense. And then somewhere between that moment and the moment where you were his campaign manager, it was announced that you'd be his campaign manager until we found a permanent one, things fell apart. And I don't quite understand how and why they fell apart. Talk to me a little bit about what happened.
Yeah, so Chris Hedges, myself, and Ajamu, you know, when we heard that Cornel was probably going to be what we heard was his interview with Amy Goodman on Democracy Now! While he was still with the People's Party, and she really held his feet to the fire about that, and he didn't have any answer to it. He just, you know, it was a disaster. So we got in touch with him after that and said, you know, you really need to deal with these problems. And at the time, he was kind of having a meltdown with the People's Party as well. So he kind of wanted out. And, you know, we offered him another place, you know, where we had kind of the same agenda. We had a lot of experience working together. Ajamu was ecstatic. And so he said, sure. And I stepped in because we needed a team immediately to deal with his administrative stuff and the FEC filings and things like that. And we worked ourselves to the bone for months. We were on a 100-hour week, you know, as volunteers to help get the campaign up and running, to get its fundraising going, and to do the things. You know, it's not intuitive. Running for office is not intuitive. And even if you're well informed, unless you've done it a couple of times and had a front row seat, if not the candidate, you know, as part of the staff or a key volunteer, you can't just be a spokesperson. It's not about being a talking head. You have to know how to work with a team and to anticipate the kinds of, you know, barbs and bombs that are going to come your way. You have to know how to anticipate them and to read them when they're happening. You know, so he needed an experienced team, which is what we tried to pull together. But then it was clear, no, he wanted kind of people he had more trust in, that he knew, people that he was more familiar with. So it was clear that we had very different ideas about how this thing would be managed. So I pulled back. Because I really wanted to hire people who had experience in this stuff, and he didn't feel that way.
What was your sense that he actually wanted to happen?
He wanted to hire people that he trusted.
But I mean, like, are we talking academics? Are we talking like movement folk who just haven't done political campaigns? Like, what does that, you know, a trusted network could be lots of different people.
Right. It could be. And I can't say what determined it for him, but it definitely was not the body of people that I could bring to bear, you know, and I tried to help find people who would meet his needs. But, you know, I got like sort of written off the process at that point, you know, because we had a conflict about some of his hiring, and I thought, no, this isn't going to work. You need to have people who have experience in this area. And so, you know, he felt, I think, a little betrayed that I wasn't just sort of supporting the candidate in everything. That's not my idea of a campaign manager. We're not there to just support the candidate. We're there to guide the process and have a winning campaign and make good use of everybody's time and energy and money and all that. And so it was clear that my ideas, what I've learned in 20 years of running campaigns and being a part of campaigns, that was not considered valuable experience. And that was not going to be the guideline here. So I moved out and said, okay, take it away, your powerful voice, go for it, do what you're comfortable with. And then next thing was I heard that he had decided to run solo. And, I think the only rumblings that I had heard was that he wasn't happy about the number of debates that were going to be required. Well, when you run with a decentralized
political nomination, again, that's why I brought up that point earlier.
Exactly.
Nomination, because he wasn't the nominee. I think it's important to just emphasize that. Although, from my understanding, there was a lot of support for Cornel West inside.
Huge amount. Yes, he would have had it hands down.
Yeah, there was no real contestation.
And I never had a chance to try to even explain to him how easy it would be to meet those needs, and that the nomination was basically in his hands, and that as the candidate he could say how many debates he was willing to participate in. You have that much sway when you are a candidate of his stature inside the Green Party. He could have totally written the book, and I did have a chance to say that to him and his team a couple of times. But, by that time I was sort of odd man out. And then suddenly I learned that he was going to go independent. And in fact, I was being asked, would I join the independent crew? And I said, there's no way you are going to be able to make up the ballot lines that you're walking away from right now. You will have to have a stable full of billionaire donors here for you. You're going to have the stable of RFK in order to buy your way on the ballot. That's how you can buy your way on the ballot. Otherwise, you need a team and people who've done this before and who have these ballot lines. You cannot raise enough money to buy California or Texas or Florida. There's just no way you can do it. And so that's where we kind of parted ways. And we only heard with 1 day's notice that he had already made up his mind that he was going to go independent. And so that's why I jumped in, and that's why I declined to go with him and support him. And I think he felt really betrayed by that I had encouraged him to run as a Green, and then that I stepped into the gap that he left. Because for me, it's not about the candidate. It's really about building really, solid power and an infrastructure that can continue to grow. Otherwise, you're wasting your time. And, it's a learning experience, but that's not what we need right now. We've had a lot of learning experiences, and to jump in to run for presidency without having people who've done it before and who know the kinds of hoops that you have to jump through and how to do that, and have that cumulative benefit of having run for decades. So you got about a ballot lines. I couldn't walk away from those ballot lines. And we had, it's like my life's work has gone into building that power, even though we're not getting large percents at this point. That's largely because we are suppressed because of the dirty tricks and the COINTELPROs that are used against us. But we have the capacity to do that. We are in touch with the American people, which is why we have built every plank of the progressive platform has really come out of the Green Party, if not the Socialist Party decades earlier. But this is the role, that third parties have been reduced to, which is forcing the hand of the, of the political elites, forcing their hand to at least give lip service to the agenda. But every plank in that agenda came from our campaign, starting with Ralph Nader in the year 2000, and then from our campaign in 2012, where we put, free public higher education, reparations, bailing out students, as well as, downsizing the military, all that. That was what our agenda was about. And the Democrats give lip service to much of it, not to all of it. They don't give lip service to downsizing the military. They want to upsize the military. Yeah.
So just one more question on this. It seemed like the aftermath of it, because what you just described seems like an unfortunate, incompatibility that I think, we all will be harmed by just a little bit, because I'd love to see everybody on the same team. I'd love to see a unified movement. I love what Claudia de la Cruz is talking about. I obviously love what you're talking about. I love what Cornel is talking about. I just wish that we could have a unified movement where we're all on the same page and all, targeting a single candidate as the person. But Cornel sort of walked away, at least when in subsequent interviews, it seemed as if he had not just an issue, well, he didn't express an issue with what you described. He seemed to be saying that the Green Party wasn't really positioned to deal with issues of empire and white supremacy. in ways that he thought were principled. I mean, he said he lost respect for you, and it seemed, and I generally agree with Cornel on lots of things. I've never had any interaction with you or any interaction by proxy or any kind of meeting or any kind of situation where I felt that you weren't serious about empire or white supremacy, or and that you weren't principled and the consummate comrade. I'm not saying Cornell's wrong. I'm just saying I didn't have an experience that he had. And I didn't really get a lot of detail as to what he was concerned about. He sort of said, I have an issue with this, and I'm going to leave it there. Do you have a sense, even if you don't share it publicly, do you have a sense from behind the scenes? Do you have an opportunity now to have a private conversation? Do you have any information to give you a sense of what his actual gripe was with you from his perspective?
I mean, what I described earlier is that we had a very minor professional level difference of opinion about hiring. That's a dime a dozen. That shouldn't trip you up. And then, the fact that I jumped in to run for office to fill the vacancy that he had left, I think he felt betrayed by that. And I think his feelings are hurt. And I've tried to have conversations with him, and he will not. He will not. He will not be on a platform with me. He really will not have contact with me. If I send a letter, he doesn't respond. If I make an overture in public, he won't respond. So I read this, as a parent, I read this as somebody's got their feelings hurt here. And, I've tried to articulate that and to apologize, if his feelings were hurt. But I think that was a misunderstanding from the start. I've been about building power here, not about faithfulness to one candidate. I think it was from the start, I was trying to build a party here and a movement.
Of course, Cornel would probably say it wasn't my feelings that were hurt, that I actually have a substantive material issue. I don't know, again, I don't know what it is, but and that's why I wonder. It sounds like you haven't gotten any more insight. Even you having to say, I think his feelings were hurt, suggests to me that you, Ajamu, and anyone else inside the campaign haven't gotten any concrete answers about this.
No, and I hear the same thing that you do, and it's kind of a shifting terrain. So a lot of time it's that, well, I've just lost respect for Jill Stein. And then sometimes it's that the Green Party asked too much of me, though he can't say what. And then it's also that the Green Party is not sufficiently Black, that we're not supporting the Black agenda or the Black community. Ajamu disputes that. I'd urge people to listen to the event that we did just a couple days ago this week with Green Party candidates, and the majority of them were Black and are incredibly powerful, articulate, experienced activists who are within the Green Party. So I think Cornel may not have gotten close enough to the party to understand that, yes, we are absolutely all about Black power and, a Black agenda and supporting the Black agenda and being together with the Black community. Again, that part of the Green Party is very much suppressed, but it is there if you have more than a superficial engagement with the party. So I think that's not valid. That's not a valid critique either.